Go to the limits of your longing. God speaks to each of us as he makes us, then walks with us silently out of the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You sent out beyond your recall. Go to the limits of your longing. Embody me. Flare up like a flame and make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand.
Today, the congregation will be hearing about something called divine timing. I'd like to share with you a favorite story of mine that, as this quote states, as long as we are persistent in our pursuit of our deepest destiny, we will continue to grow. We cannot choose the day or time when we will fully bloom. It happens in its own time. Like the children and any adult who would like to join me on the rug as I read my favorite story, Leo the Late Bloomer. The pictures are wonderful. You will miss a lot if you don't see them, and I can't hold them up for everyone, so come join me on the rug. Come on, Esme. Thank you, Enzo. Anyone else? Come on. Please. All right. Leo, the late bloomer. I'll do my best to hold the pictures up for everyone then. And this is Leo. Leo couldn't do anything right. He couldn't read. He couldn't write. He couldn't draw. He was a sloppy eater. Quick, quick, quick. Yay! Yay. He was a sloppy eater, and he never said a word. What's the matter with Leo? Asked Leo's father. Nothing, said Leo's mother. Leo is just a late bloomer. Better late than never, thought Leo's father. Every day, Leo's father watched him for signs of blooming. And every night, Leo's father watched him for signs of blooming. Are you sure Leo's a bloomer? Asked Leo's father. Patience, said Leo's mother. A watched bloomer doesn't bloom. So Leo's father watched television instead of Leo. Is he watching television? No, he's watching Leo. The snows came. Leo's father wasn't watching, he kind of is. But Leo still wasn't blooming. The trees budded. Leo's father wasn't watching, but Leo wasn't blooming. And then, one day, In his own good time, Leo bloomed. He could read. He could write his name in cursive, no less. He could draw. And he ate neatly. And he also spoke. It wasn't just a word. It was a whole sentence. What do you think that sentence was? What do you think he said? Anyone? What do you think he said? Well, he said, I made it.
Our reading this morning is from the book of Genesis, chapter 12, verses 1 to 4, from the New International Version of the Bible. It's called the Call of Abram. That's Abram. Apparently he became Abraham later, says Reverend Jen. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran.
Good morning. I bring you greetings from Heidelberg United Church of Christ on behalf of Pastor Carla Christopher. And I would also like to give honor to Pastor Jen in her absence. I count it both a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Karen, for reading and all that each and every one of you does to make this service possible. Thank you, Robert, for the sound check and for all the people who got me squared away when I first walked in the door. So our title for the homily this morning is Divine Timing. And it's kind of knowing when God is telling you to move on. There's a song, a gospel song by Karen Clark Sheard that says, "The safest place in the whole wide world is within the will of God." And I understand that I'm in a UU congregation. So when I say God, I hope you image or imagine the divine of your understanding. We may not all understand God in the same way. We may not all interact with spirit in the same way, but hopefully I could be of some assistance to you this morning. Hopefully I might be able to offer some theological elucidation. Again, my name is Joslin Kearse. I earned my MDiv in 2020 from Pacific School of Religion. I have an MBA in management, and I also have a Master of Arts in Social Transformation, along with a certificate in Spirituality and Social Change. So I am highly educated. I don't know for what it's worth. I know people have a tendency to know, like, what are your qualifications? What do you do? By day, I am a DEI trainer. And on nights and weekends, I work in ministry and volunteer in the ways that I can. So, divine timing, what does it mean? What does it look like? How do we know if we are in step, in alignment with the divine of our understanding in an existence where we are bound by time, the social construct, as I call it? We are often moved by business time. We get up at a specific time of day in order to get to work, in order to earn the money, that fuels our lives and pays for the things that we love and enjoy and also need. Bound by time. We move according to our watches, our clocks. This concept of time can often feel, I guess the proper word would be binding. But it's in these moments that we become contemplative about our next steps, our next moves. We begin to wonder if it may be time to embark on a new journey. Is it time to leave that job? Has the environment become toxic? Is it time to leave that relationship? Is it time to end a friendship? Is it time to let go of ideas and ideologies that no longer serve us? Is it time to shift? I think the pandemic let us know that there were certain shifts that had to be made in our contemporary context. In this specific time, we are no longer just in person meeting together. We are now online meeting together. We have to know when to move, how to adjust. When is it time to move on? And I understand that this homily may not be for everyone in the space, but if it's just for one, then I consider my job to have been done. Now, if you're anything like me, maybe you consult your vision board, trying to figure out what things you've achieved, what things you've accomplished, what things are still yet unaccomplished. If you're anything like me, you may consult an advisor, somebody who gives you spiritual guidance, your spiritual director, somebody you trust. If you're anything like me, you may even pull out your tarot cards and shuffle them a little bit, just trying to figure out what's going on in this current time. You feel a nudge, possibly. There's this feeling you get when you realize it's time to do something, but you come to the place where you don't know what to do, but you feel like you need to do something. Is it time to go? And how do you move when the Spirit says move? And you're not exactly sure if the nudge that you're feeling is a divine unction or if it's your own anxiety because you're uncomfortable in the situation. Is it time to sit with the discomfort and overcome it, or is it time to let go? Our text this morning talks about Abram before he became Abraham. He hears from God, and I won't be before you long. I was raised Pentecostal, but I don't preach like a Pentecostal. I'm very much UCC. But our text this morning seems to show us a formula that Abraham seemed to go by. The first thing is Abraham hears from God regarding his move to an undisclosed location. The God of his understanding says, leave your family, leave the land where you come from, and go to a place that I will show you eventually. It's interesting how the divine seems to tell us what to do, but doesn't give us all of the details. And we're very social, emotional beings. We're very curious beings. We need to know. If you're anything like me, I have to know. Very curious person. It's the reason I have so many degrees. Not because I'm super intelligent. I just need to know. I need to learn. I need to understand before I make a move. I need to have all of the information, the checks and balances, the facts and figures, the potential outcomes, the what ifs all have to be addressed before I can move. I mean, if you're anything like me, that's just a function of being a Libra, already indecisive and needing to have balance in all things as I go along my journey. The second thing is that God offers Abram both promise of blessing and protection should he decide to move. But thirdly, Abraham actually moves when God tells him to move. Now, all of the blessing, the promised land, the blessing of protection, I will bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you, are all contingent upon one thing: Abraham's agreement to move. None of it happens until Abraham moves. At the young age of 75, and I know in our contemporary context, many of us at 75 are looking forward to settling into retirement, going on vacation with the grandchildren, taking your partner or your spouse on a trip halfway around the world. You've got things that you wanted to do that were held up for so long in our contemporary context, but it seems like at 75, Abraham, for the first time, is moving out, just getting started. The old folks used to say, age ain't nothing but a number. It ain't nothing but a number. Life isn't dictated necessarily in all of its aspects based on age. And I too recognize the frailty in my humanity as I am aging. I was recently called an elder queer by some young queer folks. I did. Now, I didn't take that as an insult. What they said was, we were over at the Curve with the young folks, having conversation with them, and they said, we did not know that there were elder queers in the community. And I said, I assure you, we are here, sweetheart. We are here. The elder queers are here. And then add on top of that, the need for progressive lenses. Doesn't it sound nice? Progressive lenses. We used to call them bifocals. So I'm very aware of age. I'm very aware when I go to jump up in the morning to get a shower, get ready for work, and the knees kind of crackle and pop. But I understand at 75, I might just be getting started on what God has told me to do. What is the thing that you've been holding off, been holding up, waiting for more information? That thing, that yearning, that longing, that the divine of your knowing and understanding has placed deep within your soul, that thing that just seems to keep coming up until you act. That thing, hold that in your mind. That thing that is yet unaccomplished, that thing that when you look at your vision board, I still want to do this. Oftentimes, as we get older, we forget to continue playing. Oftentimes, as we get older, we forget to continue imagining. Oftentimes, as we get older, we get so inundated by the mundane that we forget the joy in just living. I often find myself frustrated after work, complaining, annoyed. I just want to sit in silence for a little while. But I forget that there's a whole world out there. There are still things for me to know, to do, to explore. Understanding what time is it exactly? Is now the time to move? They say strike while the iron is hot. Well, how do we know if it's time to strike, if the iron is hot enough? The divine source of all that is has prepared greatness and blessing, not just for Abram, but for each and every one of us. Even though we can't see it, but there's this requirement of faith. There's this requirement of belief. There's this requirement of taking a leap of faith that activates such blessing and such promise. It's interesting that at 75, Abram has to go to his family and say, well, you know, I heard from God, and God told me to leave. And they're probably like, well, where are you going? Where'd God say go? Well, I don't know. God said they'd show me eventually. I understand in our contemporary context that if someone says, well, God told me to move and go somewhere I'm not quite sure we might be considering having them 302'd. We might consider making a phone call to 3 Northeast. Well, I have my loved one, they're 75. We want to check and make sure that they don't have early onset dementia. We want to make sure that this isn't Alzheimer's or something like that. We put all of these things in place. But faith looks crazy. Faith looks crazy for Abram in the same way that faith sometimes looked crazy for his ancestor Noah. Abram being the descendant of Shem, Shem being a son of Noah. Can you imagine preaching the same sermon for 100 years? Noah saying, it's going to rain, it's going to rain, it's going to rain. For 100 years, it does not rain. And then one day, it rains. Now, had Noah not built the ark, then there would be no Abram present to hear from God, to make a specific move that leads to Moses taking the children of Israel on a journey that even he never gets to see the promised land. But what I'm trying to get at is sometimes the move you make isn't for you. The promise that will be kept might not be for you. Consider how many decisions you've already made on behalf of your children. On behalf of your children's children, you set up your finances in a specific way. You set up the trust and the trust fund, and the trust covers the LLC, which covers your vehicles and everything else, so that when the inheritance comes, it's tax-free inheritance. That's just a little bit of the MBA talking, right? So skirt the tax-free, but you set up these specific things in place, understanding that you won't be here always. Abram moves on a promise that he may not see come to fruition. I will make your name great. Later on, the text tells us that he would become the father of many nations. He didn't get to see all of those nations. What he got to see was a handful of children. Oftentimes, when God says move, it may not be specifically for you. So there are a couple of things that I want to leave you with. What we see in the text is Abram was clearly in relationship with the God of his understanding. As we engage in relationship with the God of our knowing, it's just like getting to know another person. This is why Abram could hear and identify the voice of the God of his understanding, because he remained in proximity to God, remained in relationship with God. He was an observant Jewish man who for 75 years had already been in relationship with God. He knew God's voice, did not question it, did not doubt it. You know who God is to you. You don't need to question it. You don't need to doubt it. You don't even have to explain it. It is a personal relationship. But the beauty in understanding and knowing God is best expressed to me through the text of the Bhagavata, which shares the story in, I believe it might be chapter 5 of the Rasa Leela, how Krishna does this sacred dance with multiple gopi women simultaneously. He is present with each and every one of them, just like the God of our understanding is present with each and every one of us, even though God themselves could be considered a singular they. I hope that wasn't too confusing. This idea around relationship, Abram was faithful. And he knew God's voice. A lot of this is self-aware, is not only being aware of God, but being aware of the self. to understand when you feel that unction, that nudge. You know when God is talking to you. God is kind of putting an elbow in your side saying, hey, get up, make a move. It's time to go. It's time to act. The second thing I want to leave you with is you may not see it all at once, and you possibly may never see the promise come to fruition. But you hold out hope and you hold on to faith in the idea that even if you don't see it, your children and your children's children may see it. There are certain things in this existence that we do hope to see. We hope to see an end to racism. We hope to see an end to houselessness. We hope to see an end to food insecurity, but we may never see it. It could happen in our children's generations. There are certain things that we might not necessarily expect to see. The last thing I want to leave you with is, regardless of what it looks like, hold on to the promise. What's the thing? What's the thing? Remember how you used to imagine what you would be, what you would do when you were a little kid. What's that thing that got set to the wayside because you grew up? What's that thing that you forgot about because you became an adult? And let me be the first person to tell you that adulting is a 10 out of 10 do not recommend. If we could remain children forever, I'd be the first one volunteering. But what is that thing? And is it time to act? Is it time to move? The book of Ecclesiastes in the Christian Bible, and I say Christian Bible as distinctive from any other Bible or sacred text. There are multiple types of Bibles. But in Ecclesiastes 3, it says, to everything, and I believe they wrote a song about it back in the day, there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. What time is it in your life? Thank you.
Please join us in extinguishing our chalice and your home chalices, if you have lit them, with these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As you go your separate ways this week, but never ever from the presence of the divine, May the divine essence of all that is cover and keep you safe. May you receive that nudge that tells you to do the thing that you've been holding off, waiting for more instruction for. May you take a leap of faith into the unknown this week. May you always be blessed wherever your foot may trod. Amen.